Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This big a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the episode 12 of Noblesse. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, we have Regis as well as M21, trying to distract other people to give Frankenstein and Rai time to get towards the sanctuary. And so, at the same time, Tao and Takio are backing him up, and they both run into Rael. But it's like, you going ahead, lead this to us to kind of take care of him. It's like, yeah, they're outmatched, but Regis is like, right, thank you for giving me this opportunity. So he goes off and ends up bumping into Carius, who is like a big brother to him. And it's like, right, you should leave here. And he's like, what, you want me to just run away? And it's like, for him, running away will be the most, his grandfather told him, right, you need to, live your life, but do something that is, that you make sure your actions are something you would consider worthy of being a noble. And for him, running away wouldn't. Especially because, if my grandfather, there might be misunderstandings, but he's like, my grandfather being threatened to be put to eternal sleep. He's like, no, it's my duty as his grandson, as well as a part of the clan, to kind of, be there to kind of see my grandfather to try and rectify this. And it's like, well, if your grandfather is guilty, then he's like, then as his grandson and the potential next leader, I will take any punishment that's dealt. And so he's taking it upon himself to do this. And Carius is like, all right, fine, you want to make this decision, I'll respect it. So if you could land one blow against me, then I'll take you to Gechitel. So he takes that opportunity, but obviously he's severely outclassed, showing you just the difference between them. And even when he goes all out, but for him, it's like, more so than anything, his comrades have given him this opportunity, so he can't let it go to waste. But even then, he gave it his all. But at the end, he's like, promise me you're going to keep your end of the bargain, and he lightly hits Carius, and just Carius can't help but smile. He's like, look at you. Look how being around the humans have changed you. He's like, has it? He's like, I guess unfortunately, but it's like, you say that, but it's like, no, I think it showcases how he's not, his way of thinking, the way him of viewing things. If this was the Regis from before, he would have done things without question. He would have never done something like this, but it's like, he's changed, seeing the belief in fighting for the people you care about. He's seen that firsthand, the willingness to do whatever, especially when what M21 did for him and to protect Manabu and Yusuke. That's that mentality that entire crew has rubbed off on him. At the same time, while the trio is going up against Rael, Frankenstein's kind of worried, but he's like, no, they'll handle things expertly. But then Rai's like, don't you have something you have to do? And so their battle, and maybe, once again, maybe I'm misremembering. I thought I remember, not as it happens in the season finale, but I thought I remember M21 full-blown wolfing out. But maybe that doesn't happen. Maybe it doesn't. They just didn't do it for the anime. Because I know, there have been some animes who have adapted stuff where they completely warp a transformation situation. The one that comes to my mind, it's a bit of a tangent, but Rosario plus Vampire, how technically the season 1 finale of that anime ends, plays a little differently in the manga than it does in the anime. It's kind of a similar thing, but it plays out a little differently. Like I said, I won't go into it because it's a whole tangent, but I was wondering if they did something like that. Once again, it could just be I'm misremembering, because we do see, if you look at his hands, they have morphed a lot more. Because before, it's just be oh, you saw the claws, but you see that his hands are getting darker, like a wolf, if he's full-blown changing, because Takio and Tao ended up taking the T2 instead of the D. It's T2, and it's giving them the enhancements they need to keep up with Rael. And that gives them advantage. Once again, I love that it's it works the best against Regis. So M21, do your thing, and he does his mad shit talking. It's what he does best, and it gets Rael so caught up he makes mistakes and ends up getting trapped. But because of that, he gets pissed and soups up and locks his soul weapon. Obviously, they're all heavily outclassed. But then Rajaka, his older brother, shows up, but it's not for them. it's for Frankenstein. And he's like, don't worry, it's that one guy, but, and then immediately Frankenstein, like, stabs him a whole bunch with, like, his, those flying needles. And he's like, right, I don't have time for games, so they're going to have to go toe-to-toe. And, the fact is his brother's calling him out. He's like, right, if you can't even recognize the fact is that he's so far out of your league, that means you're definitely not ready for this battle. And so the two of them go toe-to-toe. And Frankenstein easily holding his own against Rakuja. But, you know, Rael ends up attacking suddenly and tries to attack the trio, but Frankenstein defends them. And Rakuja calls his brother out for, like, yeah, our whole clan, our way of fighting, it's all about stealth, but anything else would, you know, we also... nothing more is like what stealth is our thing, nothing more. But you know, we all do what we do with pride as nobles, but doing what you did was cowardly, and that's not what we do. So he injures himself enough to represent Frankenstein's like wound, because they're like, right, if you didn't have to worry about my brother attacking them, you would have easily dodged my attack. So he wanted to even the playing field. And obviously we learn a little bit more about the soul weapon situation, that he's like, Rael's like, right, if my brother's soul weapon was full, and it's like, right, I didn't know if he, because like the moment his brother showed up, he tried to hide the soul weapons, but I'm like, did he not? I was like, I guess he was just trying to hide from his brother that he had to go all out against him. I think that's why he was like, oh, it's shameful that I had to do that. But more so than anything, I think we found out like the truth on it, because I was like, oh, like, does his brother not know? But his brother does know. Their father actually committed a crime by splitting their soul weapon. So he has half of it, and his older brother has half of it. But it's like, our father committed a crime, so you would have one that I did too. Saying that basically, there are things that I can do, but there's things only you can do as well. So don't be so easily to give up the weapons. Dad broke a law just to get, like, he left each of us a weapon for a reason, and don't just toss that aside. So, because obviously Frankenstein's like, right, you're a lot like your father. It's like, your father actually is the one who trained me to use my power. And I'm assuming that's why Rai was like, right, if you have something to do, right? Because confronting them is everything coming full circle. As like, Ragar is not around anymore, but it's like, right, I owe so much to this family. I owe so much to your father because he trained me. And, you know, if he was the silent type, not loving, but the fact is he was who he was. And Frankenstein owes him so much for being where he is right now. So it's like, and you know, so it's like, right, sons of this clan, it's time for us to continue. But it's like, I think it's him paying tribute in a way of like settling, like I said, it coming full circle of like him being around to face their predecessor, now like to face Rygar's, you know, successors. It, you know, it's only befitting, you know. So at the same time, Sarah's going up against Rosaria, who's like, you should go back to your cell, and I'll ignore that you were locked up. But it's like, right, to get you to tell, like, she'll go through Rosaria even if no matter what she has to. She's still a very fledgling clan leader, so yes, she has a soul weapon and everything. We don't get to see it, but she's no match for Rosaria. And ends up getting brought to Gedgetel, who's being brought before Raxkira, who is in front of her father's coffin, and it's like, oh, Gedgetel's like, oh, right, you don't have to execute her. You brought me here in particular because you want me to beg for forgiveness, but he's like, I'm not going to. The fact is, it's like, I get it, like, it's basically like, for one, he ends up bringing up Frankenstein. It's like, you don't know as much as you think you do. First and foremost, like, it's not just Rai that you have to worry about, it's him as well. Like, you don't even know. Like, the one person that even your father, the previous lord, recognized, the only human to ever be recognized for his strength, was Frankenstein. So, you know, don't underestimate the people that roll with him. But it's also like, the fact is, he ends up saying, like, it's like, do you know why she hates Rai so much? It's like, yeah, he's responsible for killing the previous lord. It's like, no. What's really he kind of dances around that, but he's like, what really pisses her off is that her father offered him the position of the next lord, and the rest are shocked because no one knew that. Like, that's what this is mainly about. Like, yes, it's about her father because she does blame him, but it's also like, because of her hatred for him, like, her emotions are getting the best of her. She's warping history to kind of, I think, to a certain extent, to fit a narrative of why she hates Rai, because he represents, like, everything of like, my father just offers you that position, and it's something I've worked my entire life for. And that's the whole point that Gechitol is bringing up. It's like, right, like, you aren't ready for this position. Like, you aren't really the true lord necessary to unite all the nobles, because the fact is, you don't understand him. Like, the fact is that you're up here pissed about him, but you don't really know him. You don't even really know Frankenstein. Like, me bringing up like who Frankenstein is, you didn't even know that. Shows like you're not as well versed as you think you are. And bringing up the fact is why your father had misgivings about giving you the position, why Rai ended up turning the position down. Like, it's stuff like that. Like, you don't even have the answers to those yet, you know? But even he recognizing, like, you know, yeah, maybe I've spoken too much, because the other lords, I mean, the clan leaders are like, regardless of what you're saying, like, we're supposed to believe it without a second thought. We're going to follow our lord's orders. Like, I get your reservations, but it's like, no, we're going to follow our lords. Which even he's like, at the very least, you've been able to do something that these young clan leaders are able to, they follow you. So at least there's that. He's like, maybe I have spoken for too long. And it's like, if you have decided that this is what you're going to do, you've made the right decision, because it's like, right, it's a decision that you've made. If it, like, kind of like, I think it's like, at least let this be a decision that you made. Don't let this whole like thing with Rai be something born out of misunderstandings and your own insecurities. This decision to put me to eternal sleep is like, yes, it's a decision that you have to make as a lord, and you've made it as a lord. Then, you know, it's kind of like I think it's like, I'm proud. Like, you know, if this is what it is, then that is what it is. He's kind of accepted his fate. And she summons Ragnarok, which is interesting considering Ragnarok is actually in Rai's place. So it makes you wonder, does she not even have the full Ragnarok? Did he kind of do something similar to Ragar did, where it's like he split his soul weapon? Did her father do the same thing? Does she have like some sort of imitation weapon? I guess we'll kind of find out, you know, more in the season finale. Like I said, I know some of the resolution for this, but not everything. Once again, like, where her misunderstandings kind of come from and stuff like that, I don't know. It's interesting because last episode I was making the point of that he left her alone to do what she needed because he maybe in his own right he thought this was a necessary thing of like, right, she has to stumble, she has to make her own mistakes, I have to let her grow as a person, be her own individual. I'm sure he wasn't expecting things to play out this way, you know. Because even at the beginning, she was like, earlier in the episode, she was like, I know you wouldn't appreciate me. I know you wouldn't want me fighting him, father, but he needs to pay. Like, he needs to be served judgment, my judgment. But my point last episode was I thought like maybe he planned it all, like he just needed her to be on her own, that I didn't know like he was, you know, maybe there were true reservations about like, right, maybe that's why he asked Rai to take over. But once again, like she doesn't fully know what each one of them was feeling at the time, like why Rai even turned it down, you know, because what that position would have meant to him and why, you know, because she only heard that portion of the conversation. She never got to hear the end of it. She heard what her father said, like, oh, do you want to, what would you think about being the next lord, and bounced. She didn't hear his reply or what her father had to say after that, so she only got part of a conversation, and that has kind of been driving her this entire time. She's been stewing on that for over 1,000 years, because who knows like how long it was later until Rai ended up going into his 820-year slumber, you know. So just a lot of stuff to keep in mind. Obviously, like I brought up earlier, next episode is the season finale, so it's definitely going to be interesting. Well, I know somewhat of how everything wraps up, but still it's going to be interesting to see it all played out animation-wise as Rai makes his entrance, which I love the little post-credits. Oh, wrong room. I was like, they're not going to set that up as a comedy bit, like when they do that. Like, I was like, they're doing it again. I'm like, they're not doing it for they're literally doing it for a gag. Of course. Okay. Maybe the manhwa had more gags than I'm remembering. Like, maybe some of that's not just the anime. Maybe it is. Maybe some of that's just straight up pulled from the manhwa. Pulled from the manhwa as well. But regardless, I'm very excited to see this conclusion in the season finale. Because something interesting, too, to note is, as you notice, like, she can kind of do Field of Blood, because that's kind of what happened when she summoned Ragnarok. So maybe, to be fair, there's the conversation of, like, once again, he was like, oh, he's kind of, because they're almost like siblings to a certain extent as well, because it's like, right, he's like, oh, we're kind of like father and because the previous Lord was like, yeah, we're like father and son and kind of like two brothers. So that kind of make Rai and Roxkria kind of like, well, kind of like uncle, niece slash brother and sister, almost, so to an extent. But it's going to be interesting to see the full scale of all the reveals next episode, all the developments in general as well. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.